Hey guys, today's video is going to be something that I'm really excited for. We're going to be working with some resins, and that's something that I've been very interested in, but just haven't had a lot of time to experiment with. So that's what today's video is going to be. We're going to be using this Alumilite. We're going to be adding all these different pigments. I'll tell you a little bit more about those in a second. And we're also going to be using this maple burl here. And so what this is, it's just kind of like a disfiguration on the tree that they cut off. So it's got a lot of different just swirls and different patterns to it, and then just all these little bumps and really cool texture on here. So this should make for an overall very interesting ring. I'm really excited to get into it.
Alright, so what you see here is 3 different colored pigments. One of them is a blue, the other is black, and the other one is a really dark purple. And these are just pretty standard. You add it to the resin, it'll make it turn that color. But what will make this really interesting are these pearlescent powders I've got right here. So the one on the right is the blue pearlescent, and the one on the left is purple. And you can see they're just a white powder, but you can notice when you see it at an angle, or if the light bounces off it correctly, it gives it a blue or purple shimmer. And so that's what will really add a lot of depth and a lot of detail to the resin. So you'll see the difference that makes later on, but just know that that's what makes this ring kind of special. Alright, for step 1, I need to cut a slice of our maple burl, and so I'm using my circular saw here, and I just carefully cut a slice thick enough that we can make rings out of it. My next step is going to be pouring out 3 different containers of resin, and there's an A and a B side to it, so you'll see I'm weighing them. I need to have an equal weight of the A side as well as the B side in here. That way I can get the proper mixture. That way it'll harden completely and I won't have any fogginess in the resin when I'm done. So I mixed 2 small containers. That will be for the black and the purple, which I want to be less noticeable in the ring, and then 1 big container that will have the blue in that. I want that to be the main color. Now you'll see me adding the pigments and the pearlescent powder to the resin, and I need to add enough pigment so that it's not see-through. On these rings in particular, I don't want these to be see-through at all. I could go for a different style and I could make it slightly transparent, but that's not what I'm doing here. So I have plenty of pigment, and then I put in a lot of that pearlescent powder into both the purple and the blue resins. And once I have the ring finished in those final product photos, that's where you'll see that pearlescent swirl that it has to it, and that's what really adds to this ring. That's what makes it really look nice. Once I get all 3 of the resins mixed very thoroughly, we're ready to go ahead and start pouring them into the mold. And so you can see I start with the blue. That's what I want to be the main color, and that's what you'll notice I pour the majority of. And then the purple and the black resins I'd pour a much smaller volume of, but I want to make sure that the color shows up in each and every ring that I make out of this. And so I swirl it around very tightly all around the mold. I'm just pouring a much thinner stream of it while I'm doing that. And as a finishing touch, I run this popsicle stick all the way through the resin. That is just making extra sure that we have every single color showing up in every single one of the rings that I make. You'll also notice I'm very careful not to overuse the popsicle stick. I just put it in the resin and I draw that one single line through it, and then I'm done. I do not want these resins to mix all together. That way it'll just make one ugly color, and I want to be able to have the 3 distinct colors that all look unique and special in their own way. Now I'm finished pouring the resin, but I still have a little bit left over in my mixing cups, and so I just pour these into these 2 different containers. These will just be my overflow. I didn't want to waste the material. That way once I fill these up, I'll be able to make rings out of them, and they'll hopefully look pretty cool and definitely be really unique. And finally, our last step in the casting process will be putting the resin inside of this pressure pot. Once I do that, I use my air compressor and I add about 50 psi to it, and that'll completely crush any of the air bubbles that we had in there, and that will leave us with material that has absolutely no air bubbles in it. Now on to the actual ring making, and this is my favorite step because we're going to be transforming this ugly and kind of clunky block of just resin and wood and making it into a beautiful ring. And I'll be using my drill press with a Forstner bit to cut the inside diameter of our ring blank out, and then this hole saw to do the outside diameter. Now I've got the ring blank ready to go. It's time to switch over to the lathe and start trimming this down, making it an actual ring shape. So to do that, I'll be putting the blank on this expanding ring mandrel, and if you didn't know, those are available on my supplies website. Now I'll be using my tungsten carbide lathe cutters to trim down the ring. So I trim away that outer diameter, and then I also flatten up both of those edges. Now I put the blank inside of the lathe jaws, and then I use this boring bar to cut it to the correct inside diameter. Now I've got the dimensions exactly how I want them, so now it's time to just do some sanding and polishing. And so I do the inside first, then I switch back over to my ring mandrel, and then I sand and polish the outside. Once I've sanded it up to about a 1500 grit, I put a CA finish on it, and that'll make the resin and the wood really stand out and pop and give it a really nice and glossy finish. Finally, I use a buffing wheel, and I use this to make sure the finish is just completely perfect. I start off with a medium polish on the left side, and then I use a very fine polish on the right side, and then we're left with just a perfectly smooth, perfectly shiny, and beautiful ring. So that's the ring, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the process as well as the results. I am going to be selling these on my website. This was a ring that when I finished, I knew this was just something that I needed to sell because these are so amazing. I want you guys to be able to see these. They just have so much depth and cool detail to them. And I especially love fusing two different items that on their own aren't that crazy or very special, but once you fuse them together, I think they just look absolutely beautiful together, and I think that's what we're left with here. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a really fun ring to make, and it was something different for me. I was able to start using some of these resins, and I really love the process of it. I think you guys are going to be seeing a lot more of this resin stuff from me. It's just so addicting. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, guys, just thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, you can do that. That way you can see all of my new and recent videos. And then of course, if you haven't already, be sure to follow me on Instagram. That's where I show stuff that's just behind the scenes. I'll post discount codes, do giveaways, all of that over there. So be sure to follow me over there. And as always, I have links down to both of my websites in the description below. There's patrickadairdesigns.com. That's where you can order any of the custom rings that I do. And then patrickadairsupplies.com. And that's for if you're interested in making the rings yourself. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.